Good evening. The 16th meeting of the 25th Council will come to order. All councilors will be present this evening. I understand that Councilor Davis may be late this evening. We'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish by Vice President Lewis, or in English by Vice President Lewis, unless he wants to do it in Spanish. No. Okay. In English by Vice President Lewis and in Spanish by Councilor Pena. Civic Plaza parking passes are provided for members of the public. You can obtain a parking pass from council staff at the table near the chamber's entrance. Members of the public, city staff, and the media have the ability to view this meeting in person and on live streams through 4 different platforms: GovTV, on Comcast Channel 16, the GovTV website, YouTube, and Zoom webinar. The live streams can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. Also, this meeting is closed captioned, and you may enable the closed captioning on your device or television at this time. The video recording of this and all past meetings will remain available for viewing at any time on the City Council's website. Council staff can assist you. If you have trouble finding those videos online, please call 768-3100 for assistance during business hours, Monday through Friday. Council will take a break at approximately 7 p.m. this evening if needed. With regard to decorum in the chambers, we want tonight's proceedings to be as civil and respectful as possible. Please do not make any personal attacks. Please no applause or other outbursts during the meeting. The meeting will go a lot smoother if we all are respectful of one another. We'll move to proclamations and presentations, starting with Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a couple of folks here to receive the proclamation. Janae Padilla with the Behavioral Health Division, and Teresa Garcia, community member who serves on the Albuquerque Recovery, Celebrates Recovery. If you guys can join us at the podium. And then as you're approaching the podium, I'm going to go ahead and get started reading the proclamation. So, whereas the United States Department of Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration strives to reduce the impact of substance abuse and mental illness in America and American communities, and whereas National Recovery Month is a national observance held every September to educate Americans that substance use, treatment, and mental health services can enable those with mental health or substance use disorders to live a healthy and rewarding life, and whereas the nationally recognized Recovery Month began in 1989 as Treatment Works Month, which honored the work of substance abuse treatment professionals in the field. In 1988, the observance was modified as National Alcohol and Drug Addiction Recovery Month, expanding to include celebrating the accomplishments of individuals in recovery from substance abuse disorders. The observance evolved once again in 2011 to National Recovery Month to include all aspects of behavioral health. And whereas the City of Albuquerque, in collaboration with the recovery community, community-based organizations, managed care organizations, the State of New Mexico Behavioral Health Services Division, the Department of Family and Community Behavioral Health Division, Bernalillo County's Department of Behavioral Health, and Peers Thriving in Recovery have initiated a National Recovery Month event entitled Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery. And whereas Albuquerque celebrates recovery advocates and supports individuals with substance use, and mental health disorders by providing an avenue to achieve and sustain long-term recovery and to reinforce the positive message that behavioral health is essential to overall health of our community. Prevention work, treatment is effective, and people can recover. Whereas the 7th annual Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery event will be celebrated throughout the month of September to increase awareness and the understanding of substance abuse and mental health disorders and to celebrate the gains of those in recovery. Be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby declares September 2022 as National Recovery Month. So, yay. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. I don't have this gentleman to your side's name, if you want to give your name as well.
I didn't know I was supposed to respond to that email. It's Jeremy Light. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. And if you all want to say a couple of words, I just want to start by saying, you know, this is something that Adrian Cariaga has been, you know, advocating for year after year. If you all know Adrian, who passed away recently, is just really unfortunate. He's just a world-renowned artist and just has done so much in the community in terms of just his advocacy. But if you know, he suffered from substance abuse, and he was able to recover and go on to do some really great things. And, you know, I'm just real proud of him. I'm sad that he's not here. He was just an outstanding advocate. But, you know, just us having the conversations about us knowing and having people who either are suffering from substance abuse currently or those that we're have been able to be successful. And that's why we have this month, because there's a lot of people that are doing some good things out there. So thank you for being here. And if you want to say a few words.
Sure. Thank you so much, Councilor Clarissa Peña. We really appreciate you being here and allowing us to do this proclamation. My name is Teresa Garcia, and I do work for the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and I am a committee member. And thank you for bringing up Adán Carriaga, because he's the reason why I'm here. And I do also want to let you all know that we do have a recovery award that is being given to somebody in our community that is making a difference, and we are going to be recognizing them September 29th. We are keeping Adán's tradition. As you all know, he was a santero. So we have, you know, reached out to a lot of the santeros this year within our community to hopefully keep this tradition going in creating an award that is a traditional retablo. It will not be like an award that you can order off, you know, online, but we are really keeping the tradition alive where a santero within our community is going to be creating that retablo, a bulto, whatever it may be, and we will be awarding that recipient with that award in honor of Adán and keeping that tradition for santeros alive as we continue our work with the Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi. Thank you all. Good evening. My name is Janae Padilla. I work for the City of Albuquerque as a program specialist with the Division of Behavioral Health and Wellness with Family and Community Services. And I, too, am a committee member of Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery, also known as ACR. And we just want to thank City Council and especially you, Councilor Peña, for supporting Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery. We're honored to accept this proclamation on behalf of the ACR committee, and especially for those in recovery, those who are about to start their recovery, and those who lost their battle with substance use. September is Recovery Month. ACR's mission is to focus on accepting, welcoming, and embracing all paths that lead to recovery while building strength in our communities. So we appreciate your support. We're a group of volunteers who work in a variety of agencies and organizations. We come together every year to put fun events together and let people know there's other things they can do besides using substances. And this, like you said, this is our 7th year. And we have 3 main events. We started off the month with an art show at Casa del Cultura, and those were showcasing art pieces made by people in recovery. And then this past Friday, we had a powwow at Robinson Park, and it was a huge success. There were so many neat people that we met, and just people who have 40+ years in recovery, you know, speaking to that and teaching people that recovery works. You can have success in treatment. And lastly, our big event is going to take place next Thursday on the 29th out on the Civic Plaza. And we invite everybody to come join us and support the Faces of Recovery. We have live music, face painting for the kids, free ACR t-shirts, snacks, and over 60 vendors who will provide a lot of information and free goodies. And we hope you all can join us in celebrating recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you didn't?
I'll keep it short for you guys, don't worry. I want to thank you, counselors, so much. I myself met Adán Carriaga in this chamber I think something like 5 years ago, and I remember just hoping and praying that he would, bring me in as one of his many mentees, and it took some work. He actually makes you work to give that honor. And what I learned from Don, because I've worked in this industry and I've been in recovery for a long time, but I've worked in this industry all over the country. This is a very different place. You hear people talk about behavioral health services and being very siloed. What we're doing with Celebrates Recovery is to de-silo that. We're here to break stigma, but bigger than that, we want folks, when they are ready, our most vulnerable populations that are in crisis, to know where they can get help at a drop of a hat. And we know that behavioral health is not just recovery, addiction, mental health, it's wraparound services. So on the 29th, I do encourage anybody to get to Civic Plaza, see our providers, celebrate with the people that are celebrating, because the people that are celebrating the services that allowed them to have a new life. So that's what we're doing here. So if you can come out the 29th and meet with us, our amazing peers and our providers, you're invited. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. And it's, Mr. President, and it's all volunteer. So we really appreciate your work. I know we're doing a lot in terms of, trying to address the issues that we have in our community. But for me, it's really, I think the answer is providing more treatment services for people who are suffering from addiction. I always say that, we really have to deal with the root cause before, because the other stuff, it's kind of like we're chasing our tail a little bit, in terms of the crime and other things associated with, people suffering from addiction. And yeah, so, well, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President. Oh, they asked what time it is on the 29th. Pardon me, Mr. President.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move to Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, the next proclamation is something that, in a time where we have so much negativity occurring in Albuquerque and being brought to our attention as well, I think it's really great that we have a whole bunch of people in the community that are trying to bring community together while doing something in a very positive way. So I would like to specifically invite Albuquerque AFR Chaplain Lieutenant David Myers down, but I want, please, for you to bring everyone with you, because I would do an injustice if I got everyone's name wrong. I met with them, and they're a great, great group of people. And then as you all come down, I will go ahead and start reading the proclamation as well. Whereas the city of Albuquerque is a beautiful and vibrant place with beautiful skies and stunning landscapes, and whereas Albuquerque is a big city, small town, and rich history and dynamic culture connect the residents of Albuquerque, and whereas Albuquerque is our land of enchantment. Having come out of the tumultuous last couple years, may we all come together in a shared vision in one accord to restore just a little bit of dignity to our beloved city. And whereas Imagine ABQ is an initiative of the Chaplaincy of Albuquerque Fire Rescue in conjunction with Red Shovel Landscaping, Local 233, and AFR retirees, and others. And whereas on September 24th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., these representatives of AFR and others will be out in our community, taking it upon themselves to roll up our collective sleeves, grab our rakes, our shovels, trash bags, and our paintbrushes, and leave this place better than how we found it. And whereas this is an opportunity to take pride in our community and to harness that big city, small town mentality and empower ourselves to reinvigorate the city that we all love. And whereas along with our community partners, this is an invitation to join the chaplains of AFR to take action to meet the needs of our city, hold ourselves accountable as public servants, and serving one another. This is an invitation to interrupt the negative news cycle with some good for our neighbors, good for our community. And whereas we encourage Albuquerque residents to join Imagine ABQ in their initiative to inspire our city, start where your feet are. Be it proclaimed that the council, the governing body of the city of Albuquerque, hereby recognizes the last Saturday of September as Imagine ABQ Day. So please, if you would like to say a few words and then introduce everybody this is a whole bunch of people that is coming together to be the spearheads of a really good project in Albuquerque to help us become cleaner and neater while meeting our neighbors and making friends and being community where we are.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilor Bassan. Thank you, City Council. I'm a huge advocate that we were made by community for community, and I really believe that. I think that what we're doing on the 24th doesn't happen without the people standing next to me, behind me, and also the people sitting in front of me. I think this is a collective effort that we can do something really special for our city, and again, to the point, interrupt those negative narratives, and just love on our city, love on our neighbors, and do some good. So thank you very much for the support. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Lieutenant, Mr. President, will you, or one of you maybe, as you all, if you want to say something, just make sure to remind everyone, I know you gave a presentation last council meeting, but if you want to remind everyone what's going on the 24th, this Saturday, so that people can hear about it. So as long as we make sure to touch base on that, I would be grateful.
Yes, so different agencies, different entities, private, public, community people, we've all kind of gotten together, and on the 24th, this Saturday, from 9 a.m. to whenever you want, we're going to clean up our city. We're partnering with, like I said, different agencies from the city and the county, different businesses who are very like-minded, and you know, if there's a need, that we want to meet that need. And so we've basically come up with a very simplistic idea for this year, and our goal this year is, again, start where your feet are. Start in your neighborhoods, your workplace, your schools, your churches, and to effectively just have a little bit of change. And we understand that this isn't going to fix all of our issues and all of our problems, but it's a step in the right direction, especially with what Celebrate Recovery just talked about as well. I think this is all phenomenal stuff. And so, yeah, on the 24th, we're going to be out in our community, all like-minded folks, like I said, different agencies just coming together to clean up our city, and we're going to start there. Next year, we might come up with something different, but that's the focus this year, is trash, litter, and weeds. And we're going to do our due diligence and serve our city to the best of our ability. So.
Mr. President, City Council, thank you for having us. Larry Espinosa with Red Shovel Landscape. A little bit as to why this works. This is truly a collective we effort. Nobody cares who gets credit. We have a public service entity, we have public works, private organizations, everybody's pitching in, all towards a common goal. And literally, with everybody that is here behind us, nobody cares who gets credit for it. We have organizations such as New Mexico Bank and Trust, TLC, AFR, APD, Bernalillo County Fire. We have several entities that are now all deciding to participate because we truly want what's best for the city. The difference between where we are and where we want to be is what we do. And so we're putting forth our best effort and really trying to make that happen. So I've got Pastor Charlie over here. We have, is it Lieutenant Jennifer with APD, Matt Ober, a private photographer. And part of this is cool because we're going to be capturing all of this. We have, where is he? He's back here. A gentleman by the name of Kyle Kraft. We're actually working on creating a small documentary on this so we can show why this would work and why it would be good, not only for the city of Albuquerque, but for the state of New Mexico, and why it couldn't go elsewhere. We have Iris Coriz with KOAT. We have Alicia Pino with New Mexico Bank and Trust. And then two gentlemen that I believe I know, but I couldn't tell you. Okay. So what makes this even more ironic is that our moms know each other. They worked together for several years. And then Chief Garcia. So again, the cool thing about all of this is that we're all here in one big collective effort to try to make our city better. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. One more thing, Mr. President, too. Just make sure that you share the website, because I know that there's a pickup day to go, and people around the city can go to different fire stations, collect some materials, bags, anything that they might need to be able to start cleanup on Saturday where their feet are. And then there's going to be some drop-off locations. So I'm sure that the website, which I want to make sure that people know that they can go there so they can learn the early steps, how to participate, and how they can maybe win a prize at the end for a yard cleanup afterwards for participating.
So yeah, the website is imagineabq.com. And this Thursday, we're doing, for people that don't have the means for supplies, we're supplying those as best we can from Station 5, Station 7, Station 20, and Station 21 from the hours of 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So if you don't have the means for said supplies, you can go to those 4 stations. There'll be a point of contact there that can give you what you need to help us in this endeavor. And then on the 24th, you're able to drop your trash off at those same stations, Station 5, 7, 20, and 21. And solid waste will come and pick it all up at the end of the day. So try to make it as easy as possible.
Thank you, Councilor Bassan, for bringing this forward, and thanks for all the work that you're doing. This is phenomenal. You know, if you don't mind, maybe I'll have somebody from, a few people from the lowrider community. They had actually approached me about doing something like this because they're like, we care about our city, we want to help, we want to show that, you know, Albuquerque is a wonderful place to live. And, you know, that's kind of the extent of the conversation. So, you know, if you just leave Rachel your number, I can have them reach out to you and they can be another partner. So thank you, Councilor Bassan.
Thank you all
Thank
very,
you.
very much.
Now we have a presentation. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, we have one more presentation, and we have 2 more presentations, but the first one is from CIT ECHO. To present this evening are Detective Ben Melendres, Crisis Intervention Unit and Albuquerque Police Department, and Kimberly McManus from CIT ECHO, Project Coordinator, UNM Division of Community Behavioral Health. If you would come up, please, we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Mr. President and Councilor, these are attending on Zoom.
They are attending on Zoom. Well, then don't come up, just flash you on the screen, and we'll be happy to watch you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilor Jones. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. My name is Ben Melendres. I've been a detective here, or a police officer here in Albuquerque for about 2 decades. I very much appreciate the opportunity to come speak to the council. And joining me is my much more competent colleague, Kim McManus. I'll let her introduce herself.
Good evening, excuse me. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kim McManus. I work for UNM in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Health. Thank you as well for having us come today and present to you. We won't take up too much of your time.
Are you all able to see our slides?
Yes, sir, we are.
Perfect. So I'll get us started and I'll make this as quick as possible. So the ECHO model was actually started here by a doctor at UNM named Dr. Aurora, and it was used to treat infectious disease in rural parts of our state. And what he noticed was that folks in the big city centers were getting the correct treatment, while folks in the rural part of our state, the doctors there didn't have access to the information that they needed. And so he created ECHO, which is a hub and spoke program done over Zoom to help train the rural doctors on how to treat some of these infectious diseases. Back in 2016, APD, specifically the unit I work in, the Crisis Intervention Unit, thought maybe we could use this same program to help better train police officers in dealing with stuff like behavioral health, developmental disability, and substance use issues, and have better outcomes in our community when we deal with some of these vulnerable community members.
So as Detective Melendres mentioned, this was started with a grant from the Department of Justice in 2016. Albuquerque Police Department and the university joined together so that we could collaborate in order to do the research and findings behind the efficacy of this program that we've had going for almost, you know, man, I can't even count at this point. It's been like 7 years. I've been on the project myself for a couple years. Currently, we are funded through the city of Albuquerque, so we appreciate the involvement and the dedication to this program by the city. As Detective Melendres mentioned, we use the ECHO model that is shared between the university and my department specifically. We currently have sessions twice monthly, depending on the needs by the community. We're looking to shift to weekly sessions as we did for many years. But the entire point and aim of the program is to improve the interactions between law enforcement and those with mental health illness.
So basically how it works is we have a hub of folks who are experts in mental health and law enforcement. Here in Albuquerque, we have representatives from UNM Mental Health, what's called the Psychiatric Emergency Room. We have representatives from our Presbyterian. We have the psychiatrist on staff here at Albuquerque PD. His name is Dr. Niels Rosenbaum, wonderful human being. And we have mental health professionals that work with our unit, and we have mental health detectives like myself who all sit on the hub. And then we have other agencies, some of which you guys will see in a second, that log on to our network. The first part of our session is we staff a case. And I think it's one of the cooler parts of what we're trying to do here and what I've seen over the last 7 years. An officer from either APD or maybe a different state, sometimes we even get folks from Canada logging off, will come onto the network and say, we are dealing with, John Doe. He keeps coming in contact with law enforcement. We're worried that something's going to go wrong. We've tried this, and this. Does this meeting, do these folks have any suggestions for us? And they have instant access to psychiatrists, to law enforcement detectives, to mental health professionals, all providing suggestions and idea on how we can better help this community member wherever they might be. A lot of them comes from APD, but as you'll see in a second, they can come from all over the place. That's the first half of the hour and a half. And then the next part is we provide a free training taught by a professional. And these are just some of the trainings that we've done in the past. We do try to find experts in their fields to come present this. And so everybody logged onto our network, which includes mostly police officers, get free training and it helps further their educational career here at APD and in other jurisdictions.
So as we mentioned, these are some of our didactic topics, and on the next slide, this kind of exemplifies. We have over 60 agencies that have participated since the beginning of our program. As we mentioned, we have people from all over the country. Sometimes we have folks from Canada. Alongside with the FBI, we have ARCA, NAMI, U.S. Marshal's Office, Probation and Parole. So our folks have access to resources and information that they may never have access to on a regular basis to find connections for our consumers or those who are having any kind of issues, or like we mentioned in the didactic topics, the expertise is given to these people so that they can find the resources for the people that are suffering.
So to date, we've trained about 800 officers, 423 hours of continuing education. We've debriefed 214 calls for service, those being the cases that are presented to us, where officers can get help on some of the more difficult folks that we're working with in our community. And we've had over 60 different agencies log on, some of which Kim had just mentioned before.
And these are some data-driven results just showing the efficacy of the program. My portion with the program is to do the evaluations of the officers and the folks who join us. We send out surveys after every session to ask specific questions about what impacted them the most, what they've learned the most, and if they're taking this training into the field and into their jobs. And so as you can see, the percentages show that the efficacy of the program just continues to go up as we have continued this over the years.
Some more data. One of the things that I've noticed being a part of this project for so long that is just incredible for me to see as sort of a senior officer is when we see some of this feedback coming from our younger officers, where after attending an ECHO session, they put something like they just feel more confident in their skills in dealing with folks that might be living with mental illness or substance issues. And for me, it's really gratifying to hear that these younger officers are becoming more confident in their skills, which I think translates directly to having better outcomes out in our community. When officers, are aware of the resources, maybe aware of what some of the communication difficulties might be with these folks, it's really gratifying to see their competency go up and up.
And just one of the examples is the verbal de-escalation has continued to go up, which is a big component of our sessions. We want to make sure the officers are taking this information into the field. This is some further data that shows that our numbers continue to go up as far as success goes, if they know where to take those who are suffering in a behavioral health crisis scenario, whether it depends on the crime that was committed, if it's at the emergency room, is it to jail? They learn that in the process and can better determine where to get these folks their help.
Last couple things we'll talk about. What are the benefits to APD and to basically all of the folks who join? Really at the heart of ECHO is being able to access training that might not be available. Let's say if you're in a rural part of a state like ours and don't have the funding to send your officers to a in-person training, these officers can get quality training, can listen to these cases, be debriefed, to increase their competency, and it's all relatively inexpensive. You just have to log on to our Zoom session. It's all completely free. You have access to specialists, including up to 4 full psychiatrists that are on our network, all of whom work with emergency psychiatric care. It decreases liability. If you take a case to CIT ECHO and you get opinions from 12 different states and 4 different mental health professionals, it's one more layer of added protection against, let's say that case ends up in litigation in the future. Again, it increases officers' confidence. Something that's incredibly important to me at the CIT unit is it helps reduce the stigma surrounding mental health issues, surrounding being unhoused, surrounding substance use. The more educated, the more we can demystify these things for our officers, for our community. I think the less stigma is there, and people are less or more likely to access resources that they have here in the city.
And that is our contact information. If anybody has any further questions, or if anyone wants to get in contact with the ECHO program so that you can begin to join our sessions, if you want to get an idea of what it's like. Our goals for the program are the continuity. Currently, we are, like I said, we appreciate the funding by the city of Albuquerque to have this program. If there's any potential in the future that we can continue to give you information for further funding based on the impact that we're having on our officers and the community that they touch, that's our next step. That's our next goal. But thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilor Jones, for allowing us to come and present this project.
Thank you for being here. It's very nice to hear the information and what's being done. It's one of our major issues, and we're pleased that you are doing such a great job at it. Thank you.
Next, we have Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, who's attending this class? I know that it's a partnership between UNM and APD, but is it everybody that's going through training? Is it who's actually attending this program?
So our I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Our typical audience, like we said, are law enforcement and first responders. We've had attendees from Albuquerque Police Department. We've had attendees from AFR. We have Albuquerque Ambulance. We have folks from ACS. And then the folks that join us from outside of the state are typically mental health professionals that work in the mental health field in some capacity, and then law enforcement from other agencies as well.
Okay, Mr. President, do we send people by referral? Is this something they do voluntarily? I guess I'm just wondering if, as a city, do we have some organized programming that we send people to take this program, or is it completely voluntary?
It's completely voluntary.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Feeblecorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to quickly congratulate Detective Melendrez. He got married over the weekend, and I wanted to thank him for his dedication on being here tonight right after what sounds like a really fun weekend he had.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Councilman. Thank you.
Councilor Pena.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. So the program is for people who are suffering from mental health issues. You know, one of the biggest challenges that I've seen out there is that I know that the psych hospital doesn't do dual diagnosis, and I know we're working on trying to create that linkage. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I think the average citizen, when we're thinking about some of the people who are out on the streets, people think that most of them are suffering from mental health issues. And, you know, I think the statistic is that 1 in 4 people suffer from mental health issues. So most of the people who suffer from that are seeking treatment. You know, that's why we're talking about doing away with the stigma of mental health issues. I think most of the people in the streets are actually suffering from the reverse, which is are suffering from substance abuse with the onset mental health issues. So I think that's the biggest gap that we have and we have to address. And I know at the UNM Psych Hospital, you don't take people who are suffering from substance abuse. So, and then I know that the county just provided some resources to redo the psychiatric hospital, which is great. But I would like to, you know, just the enhanced services is how you create that linkage to provide people with that service of getting the substance abuse help. And I won't say treatment, because here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, we really are pretty much devoid of substantial services for people who are suffering from substance abuse. So can you tell me a little bit about that? I just don't want the community to think that this is kind of the answer to the people who are out on the streets.
What a great question. Thank you, Councilwoman. So you're exactly right. We here in New Mexico in particular, we really lack the resources to treat dual diagnosis, having a substance use disorder and a mental health disorder. And like also you mentioned, some of the emergency rooms and hospitals will discharge somebody once they find that they have substances in their system. So on ECHO, we really try to have as many of the resources as we can get known to us, which include, there's not a lot, that includes some that will do the dual diagnosis, places like Steelbridge, places like Turquoise Lodge, just whatever resources we can get and make contact with. We want to make sure that when officers locally present a case that someone may have a dual diagnosis, we want to make sure we have a couple of different resources that we can point them to. And what's really beneficial is we often have representatives from those hospitals or those organizations along in the session along with us, who can also provide ways to get in, or what steps they might have to take to be a part of the few programs we have. And then the last thing I'll say is, when other agencies in different states tell us about a resource, it starts to make sense to us, right? They're like, oh, we have this really innovative program where we're treating dual diagnosis here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I bring that specifically because they do have that. And so, we get these ideas that from other agencies, how we can better serve that dual diagnosis community. And hopefully we can start to see some of those resources make their way to our great city.
Mr. President, if I could follow up with that. Yeah, I appreciate that. And, as part of the conversations you're having, it would be great to kind of invite some of those folks in, because as I stated, and you agree, that we're pretty much devoid of those services. So what's happening is that people also who are going to whatever treatment centers that we do have existing, which I want to give credit to those because they're trying to do a good job with just a tremendous amount of need, is that unfortunately sometimes they don't accept people because they're suffering from psychosis. So we're in this pickle, if you will, in terms of really figuring out, well, they can't get treatment, but then they're suffering from mental health issues, but then they can't get services for mental health issues because they're suffering from substance abuse. So I didn't mean to get on that bandwagon, but we just had a presentation about recovery, National Recovery Month here, and it's really kind of the challenge that we're faced not only here in Albuquerque, but as a nation, and that's the magic bullet right there if we can figure that out. So thank you for being here.
Councilors, any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move forward with a presentation from the Albuquerque Housing Authority. Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're just talking about housing and housing stock, and thank you for being here. We've been working really hard with the Housing Authority, applying for a grant that hopefully we're able to get. And, I know we all receive a lot of calls from constituents talking about housing and how do we get into the Section 8 or the Housing Authority. And some people don't really recognize that it's actually a separate entity from the city of Albuquerque. So as we were having those discussions last time, I thought it would be a good idea to invite the Housing Authority here to tell us a little bit about, where their current housing stock is, what I think you got all the asks. So and where you're looking at towards the future. I do know that we are looking at revamping the projects on 60th Street, which is in Council Sanchez's district, via that grant. So fingers crossed. So welcome.
Thank you, Council President, Councilor Pena, councilors. Thank you for inviting me to be here today to talk about what's important to all of us right now, and that's the housing challenges that we face and the opportunities that come with that. Give you a little bit of background first about the Housing Authority. I know many of you are familiar with us, but for the benefit of any that aren't and for the audience as well, what the Housing Authority does. We currently own and manage and operate over 1,000 units of affordable housing throughout the city. Most of that's through the public housing program. I'll get into a little more of that in a little bit. We also manage approximately 4,000 housing choice vouchers. That's divided between a number of our regular housing choice vouchers as well as special purpose vouchers for veterans, elderly, disabled, persons exiting homelessness, as well as we've begun over the last 5+ years doing project-based vouchers where we partner with developers and project-based vouchers to help other developers as well with their affordable housing units. In addition, AHA operates self-sufficiency programs. A lot of people may not know that. We have a family self-sufficiency program that we've operated, as well as we were successful in getting a grant for a resident opportunity self-sufficiency program. Through these programs that we operate, these are all HUD-funded programs. We touch approximately 5,000 low-income households on a regular basis. And through that, we find another important role of ours is to connect those households with services as well, so we can be that conduit. Who we serve. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not sure if are you able to see it? Okay. The population we serve, approximately 50% of our population we serve are disabled, a quarter are elderly, 70% are female head of household. The average household income is approximately $14,000 to $15,000 a year. So as you can see, the population largely that we serve are extremely low-income households. And the number of children housed through our programs, there's approximately 900 children housed through our public housing and 4,600 through our Housing Choice Voucher program. The next slide gives you just a brief overview, nothing fancy, but where our housing is across the city. We do have housing throughout the city in a number of locations. These locations range anywhere as small as 14 units and as large as 100 units. We have a unique challenge as a housing authority that we do have smaller projects that are scattered throughout the city, unlike some housing authorities in bigger urban areas. This housing serves families, it serves senior, disabled, but a challenge we're currently facing, and I'll talk about in a little bit more detail, is this housing, this housing was all built in the 70s, early 80s, and HUD nationally has underfunded the capital needs of public housing. It's a national crisis, and it's one that I know I've spoke to many of you about, but the importance of preserving this housing cannot be understated, as I'll get into more as we talk about some of the challenges. Real quick on the next slide, just wanted to give you an overview of some of the projects that we've supported through the project-based vouchers. Like I said, we're able to work with other developers by project-basing our vouchers. It helps us in getting some distribution of vouchers throughout the city, as well as helps those developers have a dedicated income stream to help house the low-income and extremely low-income households. You'll see we've partnered with developers that I know you're familiar with: New Life Homes, Yes Housing, Greater Albuquerque Housing Partnership, and Catholic Charities. So to get to the housing challenges, on the next slide, you'll see, I don't think any of these statistics would be surprising to you. A report done by the city of Albuquerque, by the Urban Institute, indicated we have a gap of over 15,000 units for extremely low-income populations. This was done in 2020. I'd venture to guess that number is now increased post-pandemic. The New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority this last year was tasked with doing a statewide housing strategy. I believe Rebecca Velarde is going to be at your next meeting to talk about that housing strategy that MFA has put together. I was very fortunate to be on the committee to help give input to that statewide strategy. A few statistics from that as well support what the city's report said. There are 32,000 too few affordable units statewide, and that's concentrated in your urban areas. Shortage of housing that's priced below $500 for seniors that are on fixed incomes, and 28% of households with children are cost burdened. That's just a few highlights to kind of frame the picture of the shortage of housing that we faced here in the city as well as the state. So on the next slide, wanted to highlight this is more anecdotal information, but what we're seeing as a housing authority. The ongoing pandemic, 2+ years, has certainly exacerbated many issues that we've always faced. That, combined with current market conditions, are creating numerous challenges. I guess if you want to say something good that came from the pandemic is it did shine a light on the importance of housing. We've had more attention to housing and the need for housing than we had for decades. As well as it came with a lot more, with that attention is a lot more funding for housing. I've got to thank you all. There's been funding from the city, from the state, and federally to go towards this. Unfortunately, it came at a time when our markets having unprecedented rent increases, and reduction in the availability of affordable units. So it's come at a time when the market conditions are making it that much more challenging. But we'll continue, keep it flowing. We'll figure it out. We'll get this worked out. What we're seeing as we're working with these voucher holders, like I said, that's approximately 4,000 families. We see destabilizing households. I think that's something as a society we're seeing across the board, and we're certainly seeing it with rental households, low-income households. So there's more need for supportive services, and that's been a lot of our focus and concentration these last several years through the pandemic, is making those connections for our households with those supportive services. Starting in 2021, we started seeing a loss of affordable units, and that was created by a number of different economic factors. One, with the housing market going up, we saw a lot more rental units that used to be used for rental being sold off to homeownership. People had, that were renting a single-family home for a long time decided to sell it because they could get top dollar for their homes. So we saw a loss of affordable units that way, as well as a lot of investors were interested in our market. The rental market was increasing, and we saw some apartment complexes that previously served low-income populations be converted to market rate. So we started experiencing in 2021 a loss of affordable units for a number of reasons, and as a result, saw more of our voucher holders having to move, being displaced, being required to move. And we also experienced that in 2021 and into 2022 that it was taking voucher holders longer to use their vouchers. Typically under the voucher program, the normal time was usually about 60 days once you got a voucher to find a place to rent and move into a place. We saw those numbers growing in 2021 and 2022. As well as another factor that we saw was voucher holders opting, because of rising rents, to be cost burdened, to stay in their unit and pay the extra. Cost burdened is if you're paid more than 30% of your income. And on the voucher program, we can pay our portion, and instead of moving, a lot of the residents were opting to pay more than 30% of their income so they could stay in their unit and not move. As I mentioned, the search time for people with vouchers that did have to move or were issued vouchers was growing, and we saw that approximately 50% of the vouchers issued this last year were in housing search mode for longer than 90 days, with the majority of those being in housing search mode for more than 120 days. So our response, as we saw this going on in 2021 and 2022, we wanted to see how can we help our voucher holders be more competitive in this rental market. We've increased our payment standards twice, the first time in December 2021 and again in June 2022. Payment standards are the amount that HUD allows us to, we have to set an amount for rents in our area based on HUD fair market rents. And we were able to utilize some waivers that HUD provided. HUD also recognized the challenges in these markets to increase our payment standards. So our voucher holders could qualify and be competitive with, to get into units with higher rents. In addition, just recently our board approved utilizing some reserve funding that we have to help these voucher holders with application fees, holding fees, security deposits, and utility deposits. As you can imagine, when it's hard to get into a unit, there's a shortage of units, you have to apply to a lot of places and get on a lot of wait lists in order to just hopefully make your way to the top of the wait list. Paying a $40, $50 application fee can be a barrier for a lot of households. So we've approved funding and will be providing assistance in that way, and we're looking to partner with the city on some of that as well. In addition, we revised our policy. Previously, there was that 60-day window in which to use a voucher. We extended that so that that can automatically be extended for any reason up to 120 days. So we're giving those voucher holders more time to find and locate a unit, as well as connecting, like I mentioned previously, our households with services so that hopefully they can stay in their units and not be displaced. Another action that the Housing Authority has taken to address market needs, as I mentioned, is making sure that we're getting the funding and addressing our housing. Like I said, we have a little over 1,000 units of affordable housing, and preservation of that housing is essential. When we have a gap of 15,000 units in the city, we cannot afford to lose project-based subsidy in housing. And so we have been taking a concentrated effort in moving forward our housing plan to redevelop and preserve, and where we can expand housing. And the first of those is the Commons in Martineztown. We closed on the financing and started that right in the middle of the pandemic, December 2020. Timing was not great, but we had to move forward. We couldn't wait. And so the rehabilitation of those 96 units is near complete. As well as that next year in 2021, we started on the rehabilitation of 59 units over at 6100 Harper. And over here on Broadway McKnight, that site was underutilized and really functionally obsolescent. And so we demolished the 30 units that are there, and we're replacing them with 54 new units. So that was an opportunity where we could expand the housing, but keep it in the neighborhood to serve those same families. And that's near complete as well. The next two projects on the horizon are 9,000 Veranda Northeast and 120 La Plata Northwest. Those are both rehabilitation of existing public housing, and those are planned to start in early 2023. And on the horizon, fingers crossed, we get all the funding together, is the rehabilitation of our 60th Street project. That's 40 existing units, and we own an adjacent site, which would allow us to expand that and add another approximately 47 units. When we're doing these projects, another thing we're keeping in mind is, one, adding value to the neighborhood, but also making sure that all of these, we're adding a space, a community space, so that we can have an on-site management presence and be able to provide community services. And so that's an important, because most of these projects were built without any community space, any on-site management space. And that'll allow us to bring in and provide a lot more services to the residents as well as the neighborhood. So lastly, to end on opportunities. Where do we go from here? And really, right now, the huge opportunity is with collaboration and partnership. We've been very fortunate to work with a lot of you, city councilors, city council staff, as well as staff from Family and Community Services on many housing initiatives, and we continue to work with them. We're currently working with Family and Community Services on funding that, again, can help with inspections, making sure that we're getting inspections done timely, people into units, as well as other additional funding to help applicants be competitive in this market. We look at partnerships with landlords. We cannot do this without the help and support of landlords. We continue to do outreach to landlords and look at where we can help overcome any barriers there as well. Like I said, we've been increasing payment standards. We do a lot of outreach, education with landlords, as well as service providers. We are very fortunate to have strong partnerships with a number of service providers that help us build community, really connect all these different sectors, with housing being the platform for that. Just to name a few: New Mexico Coalition to End Homelessness, HomeWise, CareLink, Legal Aid, Western Skies, YDI, New Mexico Workforce Connections, APS Title I, and Explora, just to name a few. We are in the process of increasing voucher issuance. That's an opportunity and a challenge all at the same time. We are reaching out to our people on the wait list, issuing more vouchers, as well as we're currently taking applications for our voucher program. There's a lot of funding out there right now, a lot of people issuing vouchers. So the challenge is that we don't compete against each other, compete against our programs, that we're setting these voucher holders up for success. And so partnering that with additional funds to overcome the many barriers I already mentioned. And I always try to find, like, I don't know, the silver lining. And so I put on there maybe, possibly a stabilizing market. Until we build more units and increase units, we're not going to dig out of this. But we are seeing a little bit of hope in the sense that we were seeing a lot of requests for rent increases, high levels of rent increases. We have seen that slow down. We've seen, anecdotally, staff has said they aren't seeing as many people having to move or being displaced because of cells. So maybe the peak of that happened and we're leveling out a little bit. I don't know, trying to find the silver lining there. But that's really kind of, in a nutshell, the challenges we're seeing, what our response has been, and the partnerships we're fortunate to have with you and with many others in the community to help address this issue. And I'm available for any questions anytime.
Councilors, any questions for Ms. Bridge?
I do, but I'll let you.
Councilor Grout and then Councilor Lewis.
Mr. President, thank you for this presentation. Can you please send that to us in an email?
Absolutely.
I also have a question about your security for the properties. What kind of security do you have at the properties?
Certainly. Council President, Councilor Grout, currently we've engaged security at our two largest properties, our two tower properties that serve elderly and disabled, that were experiencing the highest level of crime and security issues.
Which two are those?
That's our Embudo Towers and Wainwright. We've also put up some surveillance towers at those as well. Our budget, unfortunately, is very limited. We were fortunate in the past to be able to utilize things like sheriff's overtime and some of these partnerships with APD, but everyone is spread thin. And so security and safety at our sites is our utmost importance, but unfortunately, we don't have a huge budget in which to address that issue. We use things like cameras, staff presence on site, and where we can, bringing on security guards, but it is definitely a challenge.
Mr. President, I have one more question. A property that I'm thinking about is at City View. And my constituents have sent me numerous emails, very concerned about activity that's there. And I'd like to know what you all are doing to address those things, because they are pretty severe.
Certainly, Council President, Councilor Grout, I am aware of those issues and certainly would love to talk one-on-one
I would
about
like that.
the challenges and what some of what's been impeding our ability to address those challenges.
Thank you.
Councilor Lewis?
Mr. President, does the authority keep data on year-over-year annual rent rate increases, like citywide? You have that data?
Council President, Councilor Lewis, not citywide. What we track is what rent increases were being asked for our voucher holders, but not necessarily citywide data. We reach out to various market sources to research and know what's happening in the market. Todd Clark, for instance, he's been a great value to us, providing information on apartment market. We're part of the apartment association, so we look to a lot of those same resources for market data. What we track is for our population that we serve.
Okay, Mr. President, so your units, you track the year-over-year, say, annual percentage of rate increases in your units? You have that data?
Councilor Lewis, I guess I'd put it more that we track the rent increases that are requested. So once a voucher holder moves into a unit, on an annual basis, their landlord could request a rent increase for that contract. The housing assistance payment contract is a contract between the landlord, the tenant, and the housing authority. And so when the landlords do come in and ask for rent increases, that information we're tracking, but not necessarily what that property has had as it regards rent increase.
It's really like just one-off for individual stories. So when you hear of maybe a landowner or a tenant that had I guess a big increase that they had a hard time with, it's really just a one-off story, or is it I mean, with
Council President, Councilor Lewis, I can say that from the data we collect, we saw not necessarily an increase in the number of rent requests, rent increase requests, but the dollar amount got much larger, and that was part of the reason for us increasing payment standards, that we saw the increases were coming in $100, $200, $300, $400 rent increases, which compared to prior years were much larger.
per year, like annual?
Monthly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Councilor Bassan?
Mr. President, Director, about how big are these rehabbed units that are being built or completely redone? Do you know?
Council President, Councilor Bassan, I can get you the square footages. I don't have that right off.
I'm just curious.
They vary. A lot of these are family properties. Well, they vary. Martinez Town has a combination of family and seniors, and so there's some one-bedroom units, and then there's also 2s, 3s, and 4s. Over at Broadway, we go up to even as big as 5-bedroom units. Most in our portfolio, the bulk are in the 2- and 3-bedroom units, but we do have units as big as going up to 5.
Okay.
But yeah, on any of those, I can certainly get you more detail in terms of the square footage.
Awesome. I think it's great. There's a variety. How many vouchers would you say on average just your authority ends up distributing per year? And how many might get used on average?
Council President, Councilor Bassan, currently we have approximately 200 vouchers out on the street, which means some of that are people that have a voucher that are changing units, and some are new voucher issuance. Like I mentioned, we are getting ready to start issuing a lot more vouchers. We have the capacity right now. We could put out several hundred more vouchers. The concern is, can the market support it? And do we need to do it slowly so that the market can support it, or put them all out there at once? But it varies year to year, just depending on how much turnover we have in vouchers. But typically, I would say on a given year, we put out at least, I want to say 200-300 vouchers.
Okay, and one more question. And about how much annually do you distribute in vouchers? If
The dollar amount for our voucher program,
Roughly.
23 million. So we have 23 million that goes right back out into the, one of the benefits of housing programs is, and I always tell anyone that gives me the opportunity, housing is economic development. Every dollar that we bring in goes right back out into the community, to landlords, to vendors. There's so many jobs created through this. So the dollar amount in terms of vouchers is roughly 23 million.
so those roughly 200 vouchers equate to 23 million?
No, the 23 million is our total of, so we do 200 to 300 new vouchers a year, but in total we have about 3,500 to 3,800 vouchers. That represents the 23 million.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I'm going to piggyback off of a couple of Councilor Bassan's comments. So in your presentation, you said that you had the ability to utilize 1,000 vouchers? You have 1,000 vouchers from the city? Is that what, maybe I heard 4,000? 4,000 vouchers?
Council President, Councilor Pena, we are allocated 4,000 vouchers from HUD. That's our HUD number, and that's a combination of different
And we're
programs.
utilizing 200 vouchers?
So currently, this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit and probably not getting directly to your question. We're allocated about 4,000 vouchers from HUD. The dollar amount we're allocated doesn't always get us to the 4,000 number. So currently we have a little over 3,000 vouchers in use, and we've got another couple hundred vouchers that have been issued and they're looking for a place to live. And based on the dollar amount we have the ability to issue at least another 200-300 vouchers just through our HUD funding.
Okay. Mr. President, so thank you. I appreciate that because it was a little confusing with the presentation and what you were saying now. So just wanted to say thank you for being here. I appreciate it. As you know, I've never been critical of your leadership, but I've always been critical that the city, and that you weren't part of that, but letting go of the housing authority. I just really thought that that was kind of a misstep on part of the city of Albuquerque. And I appreciate you being here because I think as we're talking about the crisis that we're going through now, that we really, you know, we tend to, even though we're partners, we tend to sometimes operate in silos and we don't know what we don't know. And your presentation today really provided us some valuable information, you know, because I do get, I get kind of frustrated because the housing stock, obviously I live next to one of the housing projects that you have. And, you know, it is dated and it really needs, they need a bunch of new houses and we need to do, and so we're faced with rehabbing and adding new housing stock. So, you know, as we move forward, I'd love to kind of enhance the relationship with the Housing Authority and the City of Albuquerque. I've talked to some counselors about maybe perhaps us having kind of like the Water Authority, that we have 2 alternating seats on the Housing Authority. I just think it's important because when we're making these decisions about vouchers and other things and housing and affordable housing dollars, that we really should have some of this up-to-date information that you're really key in terms of. So thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Any others? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bridge. We have no economic development discussion tonight. We now will go to general public comments. Members of the public can provide live comments to the council in person or virtually if they've signed up for public comment per the instruction published on the agenda and on our website on Fridays. Here are the public comment ground rules. Each participant will have 2 minutes to present. Comments are to be addressed to the councilors only through the council president. Any disruptive conduct will result in removal from the meeting. And as to your 2-minute time limit, the light on the podium will be green for the first minute and a half, and then the light will turn yellow, indicating you have 30 seconds remaining to wrap up your comments. At 2 minutes, the light will turn red and a bell will ring to indicate your time is up. Mr. Cornelius, please call the name of the first speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our first speaker tonight is Lisa Chapman, followed by Annette Castillo.
And when you hear your name essentially on deck, you can come down and sit in the front chairs, and so you're ready to go after this first speaker.
Good evening, President Benton and counselors. In an instant, your life began. You had distinct, unique genetics provided by your mother and father at the moment of your conception. For the next 9 days, your cells multiplied rapidly and then began differentiating as you entered the embryonic stage of development. Around 18 days from conception, before your mother even knew she was pregnant, your heart was beating. At 5 to 6 weeks, you began to move your arms and legs, and at 6 weeks, your brain activity could be recorded. You could bring your hands together at 7.5 weeks, and your separate fingers and toes had emerged. By week 8, all of your organs had formed. At the beginning of 9 weeks, you had grown from a single cell to over 1 billion cells. You were considered a fetus. What does fetus mean? Fetus is Latin for unborn child. All of you had been formed, all separate from your mother, all your body. You have different fingerprints. You quite possibly have a different blood type. And some of you are male with totally different body parts. After 12 weeks, you could hear, see shadows, move, including movements of your mouth and vocal folds. You could feel pain, so many things. The last 2 to 3 months, you were definitely outgrowing the space in your mother's womb. You were once an unborn child. Your life began at conception. Let's value life and not do harm. Let's protect life and not take life away. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Annette Castillo, followed by Yakia.
President, councils, thank you. I just want to also say, Pena, thank you, council, for bringing the housing, Albuquerque housing. That has helped me in the past as a single mom getting a voucher. And I just think that's a great move to implement that more. It has also helped me as being a landlord and using Section 8 for my rent tenants as well. So it's a great program, and I thank you for having them here. I came here to talk about the UNM incident that happened. There was an organized meeting with Tommy Laren. It's Turning Point. They've been at my church. It's a movement, and I'm just so disturbed by it because university is investigating on what happened, but I don't. The commentary about it was nothing about, you know, the police. The state police were there, and it made national news just recently. It happened on the 15th of September, and there was agitators there breaking down doors. UNM is one of our universities, and I don't think that they should be investigating a crime that there was a gun pulled by the agitators. And I understand there's a lot of division, and I'm just confused as to what the media was putting out, making it seem like it's under control with UNM when there should be state police investigating it and APD and some accountability there. Our kids go to school at UNM, and also some of us, and to have you know, this organization disrupted to the point where state police had to monitor and the doors for hours being knocked down is just heartbreaking. And I don't want that in New Mexico. Can you please follow up with that?
Yakia, followed by Ben Imbis.
Good evening, councilors. I would love to meet with you in the near future in person briefly for 30 to 45 minutes on an individual basis to discuss sustainable development goals. Is there anybody here who would not be receptive to that request? You would all be receptive to that? I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you. Thank you for asking the question. I believe we didn't respond because we had no idea what you were saying.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You have to speak very, very strongly into the microphone and not mumble. Thank you.
I'm worried this is taking my time right now. I'm confused. I don't know whether you heard me. I haven't even started my topic yet.
Also, you know, it's not a Q&A session where you ask us questions. Yeah. This is a public speaking opportunity.
I did call the office whether you'd be allowed to answer questions. I do have some questions today. And they said probably you would be.
I'm not going to allow a back and forth question and answer of the public to the councilors, unless somebody wants to have a discussion with regard to a question.
How am I going to get that information then? Because okay, so here's the first topic. If we please could start the top now, the clock now. I'm seeing. At almost every intersection that I'm passing through with my motor vehicle, I'm seeing a digital surveillance infrastructure being implemented, going up. And I'm very concerned about that. I'm dubbing it the impending digital gulag. And it would be very important for me to know who installed, authorized, and funded the smart city surveillance infrastructure. Is that a question that you refuse to answer?
This is not a question and answer session,
well,
ma'am. You can speak your opinion here tonight. That's what your public comment time is for. This is not a give and take between you and us or anyone else.
I'm very concerned about this, and
well,
I don't.
I understand. You can express your concern, but you may not ask us questions. We're not going to engage.
And where can I get the answers to that question then? Would you please inform me when and where I can get the answer to this very important question?
Ma'am, if I may, this isn't going to go anywhere, what you're doing. You might consider writing us a memo or a letter and asking the questions, but this is not an interactive, you get to talk for 2 minutes. Thank you.
I don't think this is right. So I'm just asking how and when I can get my question answered. This is important. And we have a right to know.
If you have a question,
I accept that you don't want to answer now, but we do need to know the answer to that very important question.
Okay,
Who
so you need to address those
and
questions.
the smart city surveillance infrastructure that keeps being implemented every night in this city? Please.
Mr. President?
I want to know the answer. Just tell me when you answer.
Mr. President?
Because answer you must, please.
Councilor Grout?
Ma'am, may I ask that you write an email to your counselor, and then I bet their policy analyst will be able to get in touch with you and perhaps answer those questions, because those questions will probably, the answers will come from the administration, and we'll have to do some looking into.
But
those.
I would like the answer also to be on the record.
Okay.
Something is not going right here. I mean, wow. Second topic.
Your time is
Consent agenda.
expired.
Second topic.
Your time is
Consent agenda.
expired. Your time has expired, ma'am, so please make way for the next speaker.
something not right about this, guys.
Mr. Cornelius, please call the name of the next speaker. And
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next speaker is Ben Imbis, followed by Tadeusz Niemiecki.
Hello, everyone. Today, outside the People's Housing Project and many residents from across Albuquerque are rallying to try to put pressure on you all as City Council to introduce and pass a resolution for the state legislator to end the prohibition on rent control. So the 2023 legislative session is coming, and Albuquerque is the largest city in the state with a huge chunk of the state's population. A resolution passed by the Albuquerque City Council would carry a lot of weight for our state legislators. In addition to this demand, which you can do tonight, we are demanding 11 other demands, so there's 12 total. Number 2, end homelessness with housing, not policing. 2, ban short-term rentals. 3, urgently build and acquire high-quality, public-owned, affordable housing. 4, ban landlords from using criminal background checks. And 5, ban landlords from screening applicants based on evictions, debt, and credit. Number 6, a very common complaint we're hearing people make, no more application fees, pet fees, and other pre-tenancy charges. Many people complain that they're getting charged and then they're not even getting in. Number 7, require all landlords to accept vouchers, veterans housing benefits, and other subsidies. 8, rent should not exceed a small fraction of one's income. 9, reduce rent for all SSI and SSDI recipients. 10, which I advocated for last meeting, provide free legal representation to renters who often do not speak legalese and know all the ins and outs. And regularly inspect bad landlords' properties.
Thank you, Mr. Imbis. Your time is up.
Please pass a
Our next speaker is Tadeusz Niemiecki, followed by Rudolph Serrano.
Thank you. My name is Ted Niemiecki. Yes, we have a lot of problems right here with the city council violating Open Meeting Act, state law. Yes, I contact authority, AG. I contact also Department of Finance to look at to this manipulation. Also including corruption. Why Benton, Trudy Jones, and so on with Rio State Committee always been? Well, answer is because that's about the money. Getting paid for kickback. Yes, that's gonna be account, bank account, credit cards, etc., subpoena. It's coming to this point. Now, Mayor destroy Coronado Park. 8 years old tree that cannot replace it with new one. Shady. That's where we're going. Yeah, they can fix it, not 80,000 years of tree. Okay, now Mayor has also his nonprofit account. Why? I know the donors. Why? He has this kickback. It's so many ways manipulation. Well, even Davis has some projects too. Lesbian and queers. A lot of money. They get it at the council. Used to be 5 million, now maybe more. They can spend it the way they want it. Thank you. Yeah, she's listening, retired.
Rudolph Serrano, followed by Karen Navarro on Zoom.
Good evening, President Benton and members of the councils. It's been a while. I haven't been here. I promised my kids I stayed out of politics for 4 years. So you still have a break for 2. But I still have business with the city. And, you know, right now I'm putting a consolidation of everything that is happening in my life as a person that runs within politics hand to hand. And goes back to 77. I don't know what you guys were doing in 77. I was already running intelligence on the streets. And there are great stories. And Breaking Bad brought $400 million, you know, and my story is like 10 times better. And it has more interesting chapters and involves not only crime, but politics and how we are where we are at in the crime on the streets, you know. All the transformations that are happening in the streets, all the deaths that are going on, the increase of crime, everything started in 1977, you know, and that's the story that I want to pass out. But it's gonna take investment. So if you guys can help me in any ways, you know, that you can give me an ideas, routes, or find investors in your supporters, you know, this is or the people you meet. You know, anything you can help to make this happen. This is the history of Albuquerque, or Burke. You know? I'm the king of Burke, by the way. That's my street name. You know, my kid gave it to me. But so that's what's happening. You know, keeping it on a good note. And right now, also, I'm trying to help Miss Levi. You know, she's trying to do the railroads, and I was thinking. To the city, you know, if we can do something like ours. I was thinking in our project, like a huge art project, like a collage. You know, if we can work in something for to help her out because she's bringing good money. And we're back.
Thank you. Karen Navarro, followed by Rachel Baca.
Good evening, councilors, and thank you, President Benton, for restoring the 2-minute comment. Really appreciate it. I just read Henry Nouwen's last book, Adam, God's Beloved. This is an excerpt, except that I have replaced the word disabled with the word unhoused. People who are unhoused may or may not have disabilities. All, however, have experienced trauma as a result of being unhoused. Quoting Henry Nouwen, most people saw Adam as an unhoused person who had little to give and who was a burden to his community and to society at large. And as long as he was seen that way, his truth was hidden. What was not received was not given, unquote. We live in a society and a city where unhoused persons are regarded not so much as human beings, but as problems. Henry Nouwen continues, quote, life is a gift. Unfortunately, there is a very loud, consistent, and powerful message coming to us from our world that leads us to believe that we must prove our belovedness by how we look, what we have, and by what we accomplish, unquote. Henry Nouwen described the person named Adam with this simple phrase, Adam possessed an inner light that was radiant. So when you see someone camping next to a sidewalk or somewhere else you think they should not be visible, who do you see? A problem or a person of inherent worth? Thank you. I just wanted to put the problem of homelessness in context.
Rachel Baca, followed by Bruce Bradford.
President Benton and council members, what I'm about to say is going to sound somewhat like a rant, but it's something I hope you will take to heart. This concerns Gateway and the appeals process I've been involved in, along with 2 other neighborhood associations for the conditional use permit that the city has been portraying in the media as being complete. It is our position that this appeal is not over because this body has yet to render a decision. I would point the council's attention to the IDO Part 14-16-6 Administration and Enforcement. Section 6-2, Review and Decision-Making Bodies. The City Council is the zoning authority for the City of Albuquerque. Appeals by any lower authority listed in this section are referred to the Land Use Hearing Officer for a hearing and recommendation, and then reviewed or heard by the City Council for a final determination. The Lujo said in his recommendation back in February, quote, "Everything that is decided in this appeal at this level is a recommendation to the City Council." And he cited the same section of the IDO I just did. What I'm about to say now is the most important thing I have to tell you. The administration's pandering to the media that we are full steam ahead for Gateway is an affront to representative government. Since the beginning of our appeal process, we haven't been able to speak to our counselor, Pat Davis, or any of you out of concern for what it would do to the council's review and decision, or possibly solely an impending quasi-judicial hearing through ex parte communications for review and decision that apparently will never happen. We still have concerns that we believe are relevant to the council. The city promised an impact study, and what was done was far short of that, and the city staff has said as much. The good neighbor agreement the city promised is dead. We had one meeting with the city, and then they canceled all subsequent meetings. Our concern from the beginning of this project was that the city would do whatever it
Your
wanted
time is
to
up.
do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is Bruce Bradford.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Bradford, and I appreciate the council giving me a moment to speak. I am appearing as the board chair for VOS Collegiate Preparatory Charter School, which is at 955 San Pedro Southeast. We've talked a lot this evening already in this meeting, and certainly in the public comment time, about many very challenging issues: housing, the unhoused, mental health, crime, and I'm here to talk about a baby charter school. We're a middle school, grades 6 through 8, and we chose the International District in the Strip Center, where Altura School started several years ago and gave up after 1 year. We have been in that space now for a year and about 2 months. We've got 64 students, and I am appearing today just to talk about the great challenges that we face being next to Wilson Park, the beautifully remodeled park, but challenged by elements of the community, the unhoused, and those that are facing mental issues. The same for crime. Just now less than 3 weeks ago, the pizza entrepreneur who was shot dead 3 doors down from our school. We're having to work with our landlord on additional security. Calls to 911 generally are not met in such a timely fashion that we have to instead reach out to private security for resolution of fighting, sex acts, shooting up, all those things that are right there on our doorstep. We chose this neighborhood because the kids that are there need a better opportunity for education. We're delivering that. We've got our first set of scores, and we delivered in spades, but we need the city to be aware of our circumstances and the circumstances of so many other schools in the city.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Mr. President, that concludes general public comment.
Right, councilors, we'll move to a question and answer period for the administration. Any questions for the administration? Councilor Grout and then Councilor Lewis.
Mr. President, I just have a couple of questions for Director Whalen with Solid Waste.
Good evening, Council.
First of all, I wanted to thank you, Director, for cleaning up all the weeds, and everything is really coming along well, so I appreciate that so much. I wanted to know if you have enough personnel to fill all your spots.
Council President and Councilor Grout, currently the Solid Waste Management Department is at about 24% vacancy rate, which is right in line with about the city's vacancy rate. We're about between 20 and 23%, and those vacancies span across all of our departments. One of the departments that is, or divisions that is staffed better than others is our Clean Cities division, as we begin to use temp agencies to fill positions until we can get full-time employees through the city process and as we recruit. So we're continuing to do that. Our biggest challenge right now is our CDL drivers, as there's a shortage of CDL drivers nationwide. But that affects our collections division, not so much our Clean Cities division.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for answering my other questions that I was going to ask you, so that's good.
Okay.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for what you
Do you want me to just read them, Council?
Sure.
Council Grout, Council President, Council Grout, one of your questions was if we were still using inmates to do litter and highway pickup.
Right.
So prior to the pandemic, probably a year before that, even when I was still at the Parks and Rec Department, because we used to use inmate crews along the Bosque, we started to get away from that because it became a greater expense due to the staffing that's required to monitor those inmates that are doing the cleaning, number one, and number two, the areas that they can clean are very limited because you want to keep them away from schools, high schools, elementaries, parks, and those areas. So fast forward to at solid waste, we did used to use them on the highways, but we started to shy away from that because of the cost, because of what it costs to have those crews out there, because of the staffing. As we've been short-staffed, we have revisited that. However, MDC right now is experiencing an even greater amount of short staffing than the city. I think their vacancy rate is upwards of about 40%, 45%. I could be a little bit off, but I have watched the news and they have been doing active recruiting. So their staffing is trying to just maintain what's going on at the county jail. And so the oversight isn't there, as well as the areas where we could use them. Those are kind of areas where we're okay. We could not use them to do encampment cleanups because of the, number one, the risk that they would come in contact with contraband. As we do cleanups, we do sometimes come in contact with needles and those kind of things. And our supervisors can't supervise those inmates. You have to have an actual MDC guard watching them. So putting them into contact with those type of situations, MDC would not be comfortable doing that. They like to have them in areas where there's not a lot of interaction with the general public or interaction with things that could cause them to come into contact and give them the opportunity to take paraphernalia or contraband back into the facility.
Okay, very good. I have one follow-up to that. Is there any opportunity to work with the judicial system for community service, when people have fines or something, and perhaps instead of paying a fine, they could do some community service?
Council President, Council Grout, yes. And with our new red light cameras, the city has instituted a program where if you don't want to pay your fine for a red light camera, we have several departments that you can work those things off. And we are more than willing to have people work off their fines at our landfill to help us clean some of the litter there or to help us clean on the highways. We definitely would not put residents in an encampment situation because of the risk, but we would definitely, and we are welcoming them, as we've let the administration know, as many departments have, Parks and Rec, several other departments. We've all said these are jobs that are available. If somebody doesn't want to pay their ticket for the red light cameras, they are more than willing to come work this off by doing other things.
Perfect.
Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is the ACS director happen to be here tonight? Can't see very well.
Mr. President and Councilor, I'm not sure she's here this evening.
Okay. Well, maybe, I guess maybe Ms. Farrell, you might be able to give some insight into this. So just interested in a particular call that they might respond to, and just kind of wanted to see what the priority might be with them on that. A business owner or maybe resident who might call and say that they have somebody who's on their property, maybe going through their trash, possibly intoxicated. I mean, clearly some behavioral health, issues in that regard. What is the procedure or the directive that maybe the ACS Department of Behavioral Health responders would have, or APD in that regard?
Mr. President, for sure I would love to see, have Ms. Angel Rios visit with you about all the details, because she certainly runs that department. This would be Mariela. But I will tell you that for the most part, most of their responses come through either 911 calls that are referred to through the fire department to ACS for response at any particular situation that might be occurring throughout the city. They also get calls from 311, where the 311 operator will refer a call to the department. I know that they have a system in place for for folks that might just call the department directly, but I can certainly get that information to you and for the rest of the council so that I don't misspeak here tonight.
Certainly, no, I appreciate it, and really it comes out of a good amount of calls that we get in our office, and there was a little bit of confusion over whether if we call that department directly, and I think one of the responses is that it was either low on the priority list or it just wasn't something in their purview, or maybe they didn't have directives on how they would respond in a situation like that. But clearly, if these are behavioral health responders as their title, I mean, I just imagine that there's something in there that would be a part of what they would be in their purview. And I think one of the responses that it was, we're dealing mainly with suicide issues or things like that. I'm not sure how many of those specific type of issues, and if that's what's keeping them busy. But I mean, I'd be interested in what's keeping them busy right now. What types of calls are keeping them busy. I think we have about 40 responders and enough funding for this year. I mean, for about twice that. And so I'd just be interested specifically in those specific calls, because it is something that we're getting more and more of. And I understand that, our Northwest Area Command is responding to other issues, but my understanding was that that's what ACS is kind of built for and does. And so interested in what their directives are in that regard.
Mr. President and Councilor Lewis, I will certainly have them get with you and provide to you the report that they keep track of the calls, et cetera, and get you more information as it relates to the prioritization of the calls. And Mr. President, I just want to make sure we clarify the record, just because for the folks that might be listening to the council meeting, it's not the red light camera, it's the automated speed enforcement. We don't have a red light camera program in the city, so I just wanted to make sure we're clear on that.
Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was reminded during public comment about Wilson Park and the issues that are going on there. I was just curious and wanted a question answered from the Parks and Rec Director in reference to what are we doing in reference to making sure that these parks are actually cleaned up and suitable for our young folks. I've got Wilson Park, Jerry Klein Park, Lavalin Park, Pat Hurley Park, West Bluff Park, and it'll go on and on. The list will go on and on based on the fact that people have reported to me that they are recovering needles in these parks when their children are playing at these parks. And I just want to know what we are doing to address that issue.
Mr. President and Councilor Sanchez, let me chime in a bit, and then I'll have Mr. Matthew Whalen talk a little bit about what Solid Waste is doing. We initiated a program, Mr. President and Councilor Sanchez, several months ago, where we contacted APS. As you know, that facility is next to an APS school. We evaluated the entire park area, and as it turns out, as we expected, the park is actually on APS land. We have an MOU with APS for the park and for the development of the
Which park are you talking about? Was that Wilson Park?
Wilson Park, I'm sorry.
Okay, because there's a bunch of other parks as well.
Sorry about that, Mr. President, Councilor Sanchez. So Wilson Park specifically. We are working with APS now to set up a joint agreement where the APS police will help us patrol that park on a day-to-day basis. Also, that park has now been put in the rotation system for both parks and recreation from the city and also from APD to patrol the park on a daily basis to ensure that we move folks out of the right-of-way, et cetera, as per our new, if you will, standard policy of ensuring that parks that have children's activities, that we monitor those in a more, if you will, concerted effort. So we're working with APS to have more, if you will, eyes on the park itself, and also working with our city crews to be there on a daily basis. Mr. Whalen, Matthew Whalen, will be able to tell you a little bit more about how solid waste is contributing to that project.
Thank you, Council President, Councilor Sanchez. Yeah, currently there are at least 40 MOUs with APS regarding parks. So there are several parks, but we do have several parks identified, and it is really an effort that we brought APS into the fold, as well as APD, where we've always worked in conjunction with Parks and Rec to try and address those parks with high need when it comes to people experiencing homelessness or people in the right-of-ways. And I do know that when it comes to Wilson Park, Phil Chacon, Trumbull, a couple other parks, those are addressed if on a daily basis in the morning, or if not, every other day as needed. So those are high on our priority list. We continue to go there, especially where there's school programming or children programming. We do give those extra attention because we do know the need there. But now bringing APS into the fold so that they can begin to help us and we can work together to get those things addressed. We're going to continue to address those parks on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And we did something similar in Martinez Town last summer with the children's programming there, and it worked at the recreation center right there on Mountain and 4th. So we're taking that same approach to these other parks where we're just addressing them constantly so that we can make sure that we keep those areas clean and they can continue children's programming. And I apologize for saying red light cameras. That just shows how old I am and how long I've been in Albuquerque. Our speed enforcement cameras.
The
Thank you,
biggest issue
Councilor
that
Davis.
thank you, Mr. President. The biggest issue that I'm worried about is the fact that I'm having constituents call my office, and I'm sure every other city councilor, that they are running into needles at the parks. They are running into drug paraphernalia at the parks. And not only APS parks, which in my opinion, I understand you're doing your best to help out, but it's just about every park in the city now. And we spend so much money, millions of dollars, on park upkeep, the actual playground equipment that are in these parks, and yet now I'm getting information from constituents that they are afraid to go to the parks. Take Lavaland Park, for instance. Not one child has been in that park since I've been a city councilor, and yet we have playground equipment there because there is no one willing to go out and try to experiment in a park where they know that they're going to run into needles. So I'm just really, really curious as to what we're doing on every single park in the city. And if we're looking around, do we have people patrolling them for sharps, with sharps containers, those kinds of things?
Council President and Council Sanchez, we do, the Parks and Rec Department as well as our solid waste employees, they are trained on how to address when they come across needles, and they do carry sharps containers. But the city does have a sharps program. If they see needles, they can call 311, and we do have a crew within the Parks and Rec Department that will go to a park and address those items as necessary, and I know they do regular patrols as needed.
Thank you, Mr. Director.
Councilors, any other questions for the administration? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the Journal. Vice President Lewis.
Mr. President, I move approval of the September 7th Journal.
There's a motion and a second from Councilor Jones. All those in favor of the September 7th Journal, say yes. Yes. Any opposed? That passes. Communications and introductions. Are there any changes to the letter of introduction? Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of pulling OC 12 out of the Public Safety Committee and placed it on tonight's agenda for action. OC 12 is 2021 second half Civilian Police Oversight Agency semi-annual report.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules to pull OC 12 out of Public Safety Committee. And this will require a rule suspension, needs a 2/3 vote. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand. Yes. Any opposed? That passes. Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of pulling OC 14 out of the Public Safety Committee, placed on tonight's agenda for action. OC 14 is a report to the City Council from Arroyo Ditch and Water Safety Task Force.
There's, again, this is a OC 14, and this would be a rule suspension requiring a 2/3 vote. All those in favor say yes. Raise your hand. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Vice President Lewis.
Mr. President, I move approval of the letter of introduction.
There's a motion and a second from Councilor Bassan. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? That passes. We'll move to reports of committees. Councilor Davis.
Mr. President, the Finance and Government Operations Committee met on Monday, September 12th, and reports out the following items. In the matter of EC 104 and 114, that they be approved. In the matter of ECs 115, 116, and 124, that receipt be noted. In the matter of M4, 035, 036, R58, and R60, that they do pass. And in the matter of EC 118 and 119, that they be approved and acted on at the meeting at which they are reported, being this one. I make a motion to accept that report.
There's a second from Councilor Grout. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed? That passes. We'll move to deferrals and withdrawals. Councilors, any deferrals or withdrawals at this time? We don't see any. We'll move to the consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? Seeing none. Vice President Lewis.
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent agenda.
And I'll second that motion. All those in favor say yes. Opposed? That passes unanimously. And we will move to announcements. Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, there will be an Albuquerque Bernalillo County Government Commission plus APS meeting on Thursday, September 22nd at 5 p.m. in the Vincent E. Griego Chambers.
Thank you. We have no public hearings tonight. We'll move to approvals. This is OC 12, the 2021 Second Half Civilian Police Oversight Agency Semi-Annual Report. I move receipt be noted. Second from Councilor Jones. Thank you. And is there anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, Mr. President. We have CPOA Director Deirdre Ewing.
All right. So Director Ewing, are you there on Zoom?
On Zoom, yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council.
Good evening.
I simply wanted to make myself available for questions if the council had any prior to approving the report.
Councilors, do you have any questions for Director Ewing? She's here to answer any questions with regard to the CPOA semi-annual report. Thanks for being here, Madam Director. It looks like you're off scot-free here tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks for making yourself available.
Of course.
All right. We have a motion and a second for receipt be noted on OC 12. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Councilor Feeblecorn, OC 14.
Thank you, Mr. President. OC 14 is a report to City Council from the Arroyo Ditch and Water Safety Task Force. I move a receipt be noted. And I do have an amendment to propose.
And there's a motion and a second for Councilor Davis, and there's an amendment in your iPads.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move floor amendment number 1 to OC 2214. This is the attached report to OC 2214 Ditch Safety Action Plan to address domiciles and loitering in stormwater channels be replaced with the report entitled Ditch Safety Action Plan to address domiciles and loitering in stormwater channels and irrigation canals.
There's a motion and a second for the amendment. Any discussion? Councilor Lewis.
Mr. President, I guess just an explanation of the amendment.
Mr. President, thank you. So this is substitutes the original report that was originally with R21-188 with an updated report that includes irrigation canals.
That's the only change to it?
Let's see, I believe there's, the changes include the adoption of an arroyo and ditch safety ordinance, which we've passed here recently, so that's reflected in this new report, and the development of an educational video and of course, the inclusion of irrigation canals in the title.
Other discussion? And Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, I'm just wondering, and thank you, Councilor Feeblecorn. I think that was great. I just don't know if there's anything else that you want to add. I know I see Mr. Minicucci here. We're good? Okay, well then that makes it easy.
Councilor Feeblecorn.
Mr. President, to close, is that, okay. I urge your support. It's just changing out one report for another one that's been updated, so thank you.
All right, this is on the amendment. All those favor say yes. Any opposed? There's a one no, so it's a 8-1 vote. Now we're back on the bill as amended. Any further discussion? Councilor Feeblecorn to close.
Mr. President, urge your support. This is just a move that it be noted receipt, so hopefully no problems with that.
All right, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. We'll now move to EC 18, pursuant to the City of Albuquerque Labor Management Relations Ordinance, multi-year collective bargaining agreement with the prisoner transport officers. I move approval. The motion's with a second from Councilor Feeblecorn. And any other discussion? Is there anyone signed up to speak on this? Doesn't seem to be. Councilors. It's been moved and seconded. EC 118, all those in favor say yes. Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Move to EC 119, pursuant to the City of Albuquerque Labor Management Relations Ordinance, multi-year collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 244. I move approval. There's a second for Councilor Feeblecorn. Any discussion, Councilor Bassan?
Mr. President, I'm going to take just a quick moment to say thank you. I see Mr. Tittman out there in the audience. So I'm going to hope that you all sign that proclamation again, because we put 233 and it's local 244 and we have it amended and changed. So I just wanted to correct that publicly. Thank you to local 244.
All right, with that correction, any other discussion, councilors? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? And that passes unanimously. We move to final actions. 032, this is adopting a zoning map amendment for an approximately 0.76 acre site located at 10,035 Country Club Land Northwest between Golf Course Road Northwest and Paradise Hills Golf Course from the NRC to RML in order to facilitate future redevelopment under the RML zone district. I move to adopt findings. And those are in your iPads, and we're handing them out also. Thank you. And is there a second to adopt the findings? There's a second from Councilor Lewis. Any discussions, Councilor? Just maybe Mr. Melendez, give us a quick rundown on these findings. And
thank you,
Ms.
Mr. President.
Schultz.
I'll actually defer to Ms. Schultz for that.
Sorry, Ms. Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the council's last meeting, they voted to deny the request for the zone map amendment subject to findings. Staff did present those findings to you that evening, but you wouldn't have had a chance to review them ahead of time, so we deferred the item for 2 weeks and provided the findings to you for your review. There were some minor modifications to the findings based on some of the conversation that staff heard at the dais. The findings before you incorporate those changes related to centers and corridors and transit areas.
Any discussion, councilors? We of course took action, and these are just the findings that will go into the record for the zoning action. Any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor of the adoption of findings? Did I move the? I did. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. Opposed? I'm going to vote no on that, actually. I forgot what I was doing. Okay, that passes on a 6-3 vote. And we'll move on to 034, redistricting the 9 city council districts of the city of Albuquerque. Councilors Bassan and Pena.
You want to take it, Counselor? Go ahead. Okay. So 034 is redistricting 9 city council districts in the city of Albuquerque. I move it do pass.
Is there a motion and a second from Councilor Bassan?
And Mr. President, there's amendments in the packet. They're not ones that I'm moving, so I would defer to the councilors who are moving those.
All right, Councilor Feeblecorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move floor amendment number 1 to O2234. This is to replace the maps and precinct data in Exhibit A with the attached maps and precinct data. That is Citizen Map 5 that I'm proposing. It is the Fairness for the Future map.
There's a motion and a second to amend the redistricting to make Citizen Map 5 the replacement map. Any discussion? Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, I just want to make sure to clarify so that there's no confusion, or at least minimal confusion if possible, but if this amendment or the following amendment is, we can only vote for one amendment, and if we vote for either amendment, and then it will replace, as is written, map A. So I just want to be clear that that is correct. And if I'm wrong, if one of staff will confirm that, but I just want to make sure so that we're all clear when we go to vote that it's not all of the above.
Procedurally, is that correct, Mr. Melendez?
Mr. President, our staff member, Petra Morris, is available on Zoom. She could probably give a more thorough explanation.
Councilor Davis.
If we're waiting on Ms. Morris or Gary, go ahead.
Mr.
Good
President,
evening,
we have a public comment. I think that might be the best bet. I apologize. I'm the one that messed that up and said to go to the amendments. So I know we have a few people signed up for public comment.
If you can hang on, Ms. Morris, we're going to go to public comment first.
Sure.
And so,
Yes, sir.
yes,
Mr. President.
Please, let's proceed with that.
Our first speaker is Brian Sanderoff, followed by Brittany Puss.
Thank you, Mr. President and councilors. I don't think that we intend to speak in the public comment period. We're just here to answer questions that may arise. Both myself and Ms. Poss.
All right, so we would move to the folks signed up on Zoom.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. President. Our first speaker is Maureen Skoran. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I would like to encourage the council to support Concept A. Concept A had the most support by far from the Citizens Redistricting Committee, and it also moves the fewest people into a new district at 5.8%. Stability in districts has been favored by courts, and I think it helps increase civic participation. Citizen Map 5 is being promoted as something with greater Hispanic representation. It does have one more district with a majority of Hispanic voting age population, but it also has one more district with a majority of non-Hispanic white population. So because it's a diverse city, we have several districts that don't have a majority of any particular ethnicity. So I'm not sure that it gives Hispanics actually more representation than they're going to have in any other map. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Mr. President, is Frank Comfort.
Good evening. I am the current Vice President of the West Side Coalition of Neighborhood Associations. And we reviewed the work that was done by the redistricting committee appointed by City Council. And I know that they were using guidelines in order to form their recommendations from demographics to socioeconomic and so forth. And we brought that to the council, to our Wisconsin for a vote. And they took, obviously they took all that information to their neighborhood. And the majority of the neighborhood associations, which we represent 27 of, voted for MAP A as far as a recommendation. So we hope you support MAP A. The redistricting committee did an awesome job as far as evaluating all the data, all the demographics and so forth. So we support as Wisconsin MAP A. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Candy Patterson, followed by Renee Horvath.
Okay. Buenas noches. I have lived in this community on the west side since 1987. I'm part of the Volcanoes at this time. And I have lived in the Laurelwood neighborhood, part of the Laurelwood neighborhood. And we stand in support of the MAP A, which was supported by the larger part of the community on the west side. And this is something that actually brings our community together. We actually straddle three coalitions at this time, and our representation includes everything west of the bluff. And I can recall back in 2010 when Dr. Valles and myself were very adamant about representation on the west side that kept our communities together, communities of interest. When you bring in the change on MAP 5, that really creates a disparity among our community. You have to go across to Wyoming, from Wyoming all the way to Unser, which is 9 miles. These communities are not communities of interest. And I believe that this is a disenfranchisement our communities. I think our communities need to stay together. I think we work really well together and can address the needs. Can you imagine a city councilor representing this area in District 5? What a mammoth undertaking when you have a disparity in the needs of the east side and the west side. I believe that the map that was recommended by the committee, and these are committee members that really work together, and I listened in on some of these meetings, and I think it's important to listen to the people that you appointed, and they voted for MAP A. So I thank you, and I hope that you can support MAP A for our community. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Renee Horvath, followed by Lansena.
Good evening. My name is Renee Horvath. I live on the west side in Taylor Ranch. And I just want to say that Taylor Ranch, back in July, at the request of the West Side Coalition president, for all the neighborhoods to take a look so that we could take a vote at our August meeting to look at all the maps that the redistricting committee was looking at, and so that we could take a vote. So Taylor Ranch did look at all 8 maps and agreed with the redistricting committee that MAP A, that we supported MAP A also, based on what the redistricting committee highest score was for that map. And I did attend one of the redistricting meetings, and one of the comments discussion during that meeting was they wanted minimal changes to the boundaries, and that even one of the neighborhoods that spoke that evening wanted to, they liked their city councilor and they did want to maintain their boundaries. So I remember that. So, and most of the committee at that time thought that minimal changes was important in the redistricting. And so therefore, again, Taylor Ranch voted for map A. Thank you.
Lansana.
Hello, Mr. President and members of the council. Thank you for having me. My name is Lanson. I'm the policy director for the Center for Civic Policy. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Center for Civic Policy, as we are the convener of the C3 tables. Members of 45 organizations make up that organization. And I do want to say that in thinking of redistricting, how much of a monumental undertaking it was for this redistricting committee to take this on, but this only happens every 10 years. And if we seek to accept the status quo, that's exactly what we will get. In my own experience on being your former colleague, when we talk about East versus West, it should certainly not be that way. When we think about investments, it certainly should not be that way. So let's think about how we can bridge that divide by actually having more counselors represent the West Side, to have more investments here on the West Side. And when we think of when the 9 districts were originally created, the ideal population was 11,000, and now it's 33,000. And now as we look at Hispanic Heritage Month, what does that exactly mean for our communities throughout our city? Not just in our history, not just in our culture, but advocacy and adding a Hispanic voice. With with map 5, rather, it really pushes so that we have more representation for our Hispanic communities, more representation for our Black Indigenous communities of color. So I thank Councilmember Fiedelkorn for adopting this amendment, and thank the councilors for entertaining the redistricting. But overall, I do wish that we amend so that we adopt map 5, or at least slow this process down so that we have more engagement with our community and have opportunities to really discuss what this could mean for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. As that concludes our public comment on the bill, or on the amendment, I guess, or on the bill, both. And so we're back on the amendment. Councilor Fiedelkorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I just, redistricting is our one time in a decade to really think through equity and inclusion in our city. And I think it's really important to look at this map and look at what it would result in and how it would impact representation on city council. I want to thank District 7's representative to the redistricting committee. Travis Kellerman did an amazing job along with everyone else that was on this committee. And the conversations around this map were really enlightening, and I hope everyone, if you haven't watched those, will go back and watch them. I get that change is hard, but again, this is our one chance. Decades of gerrymandering have resulted in this current power map that we have in our community. And it would be really nice if we took this opportunity to think through how to change that power map, how to make sure that we're thinking through equity, inclusion, and so I would urge your support on this amendment.
Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, I would like to request that we go back to Ms. Morris to clarify my very original question on if we vote for these 3 things, we need to make sure that the council's clear that we really are voting for one. Please.
Ms. Morris.
Mr. President, councilors, thank you. Yes, there are 3 maps before you this evening. There's concept map A, which is the exhibit to the bill. There is citizen map 5, which Councillor Fiedelkorn has moved. And then there's also citizen map 4. These maps all compete with each other. And so when you are making a vote, you need to be aware that that you'll need to choose. That you'll need to choose one map over another.
Thank you. All right. I do have a quick question myself with regard to this map. And Ms. Morris, you can probably answer this. Regarding the the second district crossing the river, which in this case would be District 2. Is that utilizing the right-of-way of I-40, or is it just that both sides of the river are within the municipal boundary?
Mr. President, this map uses the right-of-way of I-40 as well as the right, a couple of precincts that I believe cross. Brittany might be able to answer to this one a little bit better than I can.
Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Cornelius, for having this up. This is a perfect sort of examination of this. So, under Citizen Map 5, actually 2 districts are crossing the river, District 2 and District 6. And, you know, they're both crossing in that only available place to cross and keep contiguity, which is between I-40 and I-40 and Central. And in both cases, District 2 and District 6 are crossing the river to Unser between Central and I-40. And then District 6 is crossing to the ditch, essentially south of Central, in that little bit of a Trisco that is within the city limits.
All right, thank you. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just really quickly, let me say I do applaud the the purpose of the map. I think it's important. We got to really consider more districts that will cross the river. This is the only concept that had two districts crossing, and I think that's important. And I support and agree with our former colleague, Councilor Senna and Councilor Fiebelkorn, that if we're going to keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same results. If it's frustrating to all of us that not much seems to change up here, I think part of it is that it's easy to keep the same districts because we just got elected in them and we know those neighborhoods. But they don't challenge us to think in new ways or to build new coalitions and do those things. That said, I think there are other maps that make this work. Although it does seem to meet some of the equity issues and some of the cross river concerns that we've had for years. Quite frankly, there's a piece of redistricting called compactness, and somebody pointed out this just doesn't have it. As Councilor Lewis pointed out last time, Councilor Sanchez pointed out last time, like somewhere between a Trisco and Mesa del Sol and the State Fair, it's hard to draw a line for compactness that those neighborhoods all share a common experience in our city or could advocate together for something. And I find that hard to do here, especially since this would be a district I would have to represent, and I would find it hard to represent more than 30 different neighborhood associations and HOAs. For those of you who do 10 or 12, imagine 3 times that. We would never get a life. And I think that this has lots of benefits in principle, but fails the practicality test for lots of reasons. And so I wanted to have this discussion. I think the values are important, but I think this is not it, if only for practice, that no one could reasonably represent these districts well and bring them together around a common interest. And so I would, for that reason, plan to vote against this map.
Thank you. And I too will be voting against the map, although I too applaud the intent of trying to bridge our community, literally and figuratively, by getting across the river with more than just one district. I did represent the old District 3, which did cross the river. I knocked on a lot of doors in the west side, and I did my very best to represent my west side constituents as the third west side councilor at that time. And our last redistricting in 2011 was kind of this unusual occurrence when it was nice and clean to be able to just have 3 districts across the river, but that now has changed and will continue to change going forward. And you know, one thing that's been discussed, I asked the question about how we cross the river with 2 districts here, and I think there could be opportunities in the future, and we might be doing a council 10 years from now a favor by having a discussion about annexing Montano, the Montano Road right-of-way across the river. That is a city facility built by the city with city money largely, and no reason we shouldn't take a look at that and not just forget it now for another 10 years, and then we'll still be dealing with the same challenge again. So that's something I've had a brief conversation with Mr. Ryle about. I think it's something, again, that it will fall by the wayside after this is passed, and that question may not arise. But just for the good of the city and keeping the options open going forward for districts that can cross the river and still be compact, unlike this one, we really need to open up those options for the future. I'm sorry we didn't do that last time. Now, in retrospect, I don't remember that being discussed last time. So I too will be voting against this. But Councilor Feeblecorn to close.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilor. Oh, okay. Well, I can't. Need to get my.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say real quickly that my district's getting chopped up into 3 pieces on this map. And I honestly believe that I've done a really, really good job working with my district representatives and all the neighborhoods in the area. And I do agree that it is probably the busiest district. I've actually talked to those who actually work in city council services, and they do say that it is an extremely busy district. But I think that right now we have put forth a committee of members and put forth several meetings where these members of ours were very, very diligently working and asking these questions and working through all of these questions that we have. And they overwhelmingly came up with Concept A. When you look at the vote, and I have it right here, Citizen Map 5, according to everybody in Albuquerque, is voted at the very bottom. And Concept A, according to our constituents and voters, is at the very, very top. So again, I think it's important that we take into consideration all the hard work that the committee did and make sure that we are not letting our voters down and making sure that the voters are choosing us instead of us choosing our voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too will not be voting for this. First of all, I want to start off by saying, thank you, Councilor Sena, for all your work that you put into this. Or former Councilor Sena, for all your work that you put into this. I really appreciate the intent of what she was trying to do. And then also I want to thank the committee members who served on this. I know there was a lot of work. Somebody mentioned it earlier. There was a lot of due diligence, a lot of people working together. I heard that the committee really worked well. And then I want to thank the representative who represented District 3, Sharice Quesada. I think she did a phenomenal job. I think she ended up being one of the persons that people look to for information on the committee, and of course the alternates. But I just wanted to say that, with the Citizen Map 5, looking at it, I was really just trying to dissect it because I thought it was an interesting concept of having what was called the 4 Hispanic districts, majority districts. But when you look at our districts, we actually have, our percentage is, we have 5 districts that the percentage, that the highest percentage is Hispanics in that particular district. And then when you look at representation from white, and it's pretty much like 30, it's some percent on some of them. Anyway, really the minorities are really reflected in lots of our districts. And for me, I really hated to see status quo. I know, looking at the county that they picked a status quo map. I know we're kind of in the position of picking a status quo map here, but we really do have a challenge. And I don't think it's east versus west. I think that we have this natural boundary with this one single road that we can actually utilize to create fairness in terms of numbers across the river. But unfortunately, it always happens to be, and I've said this in the committee that we just had, it happens to be marginalized community that kind of makes up the number for redistricting every 10 years. So, I have a memorial moving forward just talking about asking the legislature to look at additional roadways across the river. One thing that I did mention is that, I don't typically like to ask the legislature to do something to do their job, but I put the memorial forward just because I thought it was an interesting conversation to have. And at the committee meeting, Councilor Benton mentioned about Montaño, that we have that one area. And yes, I had explained to him that I'd like to proceed with that because we're going to be faced with this every 10 years of figuring out whether we pull from Atrisco and Central or we take away from Atrisco and Central. And that really hurts communities of interest in the compactness of what those communities have in common on the west side of the river, so that when we're looking at equity and inclusion and fairness, I think looking at alternatives to establish that for the next 10 years is where we need to go. So thank you.
All right, well, back on the amendment number 1. Any further discussion? If not, Councilor Fiebelkorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I just want to thank Center for Civic Policy and all the other amazing people who live in Albuquerque that spent so much time trying to come up with a map that resulted in equity and inclusion, and I think they did a good job. I think you can tell where this is going. This will not be passing, but I do think it was worthwhile to have a conversation about what it would take to have 4 minority districts for the Albuquerque City Council. And I just have to say, this is not about councilors or how hard it would be to represent a district, or it's not about a neighborhood association that may have to change their boundaries. This really should be about what's best for the citizens of Albuquerque. And so, I think it was just worthwhile to have this conversation to remind everyone that equity is important in the city of Albuquerque. And with that, I will just close. Thank you.
All right. We'll vote on floor amendment number 1. All those in favor say yes and raise your hand. Opposed? And that fails on a 1 to 8 vote. And now we'll move to floor amendment number 2, Pat Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Floor amendment number 2 replaces the maps and precinct data Exhibit A with the attached maps from citizen map number 4. I move amendment 2.
There's a second from Councilor Fiebelkorn.
Mr. President, I can make a case for this. I assume I kind of know where this goes from the conversation, but I think it's important to raise the issue and continue to advocate for it. Citizen Map 4 is a map that Councilor Fiebelkorn and I worked on together with some of our neighborhoods and some of the members of the Redistricting Commission. It's based on Map A, which is, as most of you have pointed out, is fairly popular with some of you and with some of the city. The only difference is that it redraws the lines between 6 and 7 and a couple of precincts on the edges to get the numbers right. But the important principle here is that it ends the practice of dividing our international district amongst 3 different city council districts. What that really means is that we are creating a new minority-majority district that, by the way, happens to be the neighborhood in the community that is most likely to be our immigrant-first community, is most likely to be our Native American, our largest Native American population district, and one of our highest African-American districts. By the way, we haven't had any of those people ever sit in any of these seats in the history of our city as far as we can look under our current structure of government. And so, although all of the maps achieve the equity in terms of the number of individual bodies that we would represent and the sort of neighborhoods and the issues, the practice is that not every community participates with our city and in our electoral process in the same way. Too many communities are disenfranchised, aren't included, have transience issues, and so they're not registered properly when the next election comes up. They don't have the opportunity to participate. And in a practical sense, more than anything, we all know that as city councilors, when we have a limited amount of funds and a limited amount of time, although we'd like to pretend it's not true, it often means that the neighborhoods that ask loudest vote more often, receive more of our attention, and often from the city more of the funds, because they come to the meetings, they have time to be here, they have time to meet with us, they have time to meet with the mayor, and to make their case. And what that really has meant for districts like the International District is that they have to divide their interest amongst 3 city councilors, and those of us who have limited funds can take on a third of a project here and maybe a third over there, and neighborhoods that are wholly within a city council district get to prioritize that. Councilor Pena has done a really amazing job in the Southwest Mesa consolidating opportunity in those neighborhoods, directing funding to those districts to make up for disinvestment over the years. We've started that in our international district, but haven't finished, and in part because the opportunity to do that's divided. This would give us an opportunity to have a new minority counselor and to consolidate their opportunity to participate in the process and hopefully encourage new voices to participate and be in one of these seats. And so that's the reason I wanted to bring this map. Thank you for letting me have my speech. I suspect it will not pass, but I do think it's important that we ought to consider options that open the door to other people and don't continue the status quo, because it's notable to me, says the white guy from Nob Hill, that all of the representatives from the east side of our river look like me, right? Councilor Benton sort of accepted because he splits his time in his heritage, but it's mostly white folks that represent us on the east side of the city. But there are a lot of folks of color who need a person that looks like them as well, and I think they deserve a shot to have a voice on that side of the river. And for that reason, I put forward amendment number 2, Mr. President.
All right, Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just kind of want to go back to some comments that were made earlier, and maybe somebody from research and polling, or maybe Petra can answer these questions. I know we talked about it earlier, and I just don't want to leave the public thinking that we were not able to establish 4 minority districts, because the comment made was that it would be nice to have 4 majority minority districts. So when you look at each of our districts in terms of minority, the total percentage, it is almost every single district is as majority minority. Is that correct, Ms. Paz or Petra?
Sure, Mr. President and Councilor Pena. So yes, the vast majority of districts under all concepts are majority minority, meaning that the white population is less than 50% in the district. And just as a note, Concept A has 2 majority white districts, and Citizen Map 4, which is the one currently under consideration, has 3.
So thank you. I mean, I think that goes to, I think sometimes the detail, the devil is in the details, right? And then when you look at the citizen map, and when you look at all our districts, and you look at percentage and not so much the 50% threshold, but with our current map, we have a majority Hispanic in 5 districts. Maybe I shouldn't say majority, but our percentage of Hispanics is, for example, District 1 is 57.9, District 2 is 49.1, District 3 is 79.5, District 4 is 31, this is one that doesn't, and then District 5 is 43.2, District 6 is 43.1. So the percentage of Hispanics in all these districts, which are 5, are the higher percentage, but when you include the minority, the additional Native American Black minorities, our population outweighs the white population, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then when you look at Concept A, it's very similar, and then when you look at actually, I don't have it in front of me, but the one that's being presented now. So I just want to make sure that when we're having these conversations about representation for minorities, we have representation, and I would be the first to say that we need additional, hence the reason that the status quo map is kind of an unfortunate turn of events for us, but we do need to look in the future of adding, additional means across the river. But I just want to make sure, because I did receive calls from constituents about how we don't have, and I just want to be clear on that when we're talking about creating this, we kind of have it, other than we don't meet the 50% threshold in some instances, which I do agree we need to get to, but kind of not on the backs of other marginalized communities. So thank you.
Other discussion, councilors, on floor amendment number 2? I am going to be voting for this amendment. You know, a lot of discussion about minorities and of course, the International District is a largely minority district. But in order to create a district that wholly represents that really underprivileged area, there are other consequences, of course, on the map. But I would say that of the city, of the possible council districts, that district under concept 5, map 5, or 4, excuse me, really does consolidate a lot of very underprivileged neighborhoods, as was described by Councilor Davis. So I think there's something to be said for that, and I will be voting for that map. Okay, anyone else to close? Councilor Davis.
Urge your support.
All right, all those in favor of floor amendment number 2, which would enact citizen map 4, say yes and raise your hand. Yes. Opposed? And that fails on a 3-6 vote. And we're back on the bill unamended. And any discussion, councilors? Councilor Bassan or Pena to close?
Nope, Mr. President.
Or Councilor Davis.
Mr. President, I just want to ask a technical question. I don't know who knows the answer because I wasn't here 10 years ago. At what point do the new lines take effect? Is it by election? Is it sort of when we sign, when the mayor, if and when the mayor signs the bill? Just out of curiosity for neighborhoods that are worried or have questions about who represents them next week, how does this work?
Mr. President, Councilor Davis, I'm happy to take that.
Hi, Brittany. Ms. Boss.
Thank you. So the new districts will take effect at the when the new councilor that ran and won in those districts takes office. So all of the current councilors will fill their entire terms until the next election, and that's essentially when they will go into effect. And because the Albuquerque City Council has staggered terms, they'll go into effect sort of in different stages. So folks who are elected in the next election will take office then, and then everybody who is, you know, what is it, 3 years now, will take effect 3 years from now.
Mr. President, that's just confusing, but okay. Like some folks will have 2 counselors for a while and some will have none. Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mr. President, councilors, just to clarify, that would be the case if there were councilors that were not residing in the districts in which the council district maps were elected for. However, this bill will go into effect 5 days after publication. And so councilors will begin representing the new districts in probably about 3 weeks' time.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I understood to be the case. So the new districts, Mr. President, to be clarified, the new districts will be effect fairly soon. Right. Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion, councilors? Councilor Bassan?
Mr. President, I think that just reading the room a little bit, so I'll die on this sword. In about 3 weeks, we, or some of us, or most of us, will have new boundaries. Is that correct?
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, yes, that's correct. In about 3 weeks, almost all of you will have new council boundaries. In the coming weeks, council staff will be working to make sure that the websites are updated, the maps are updated, and that council services staff and the city all are aware of what these new boundaries look like.
Oh, I think I'm the only one here who actually served a district that I did not live in. That was 10 years ago, and District 3 was drastically redrawn and looks pretty much the way it's going to continue under this map. And Councilor Pena was doing important things, but wasn't a councilor at that time. And so lo and behold, I needed to represent the district that I was elected to, but also talk about some extra work and going to some extra neighborhood association meeting. Councilor Sanchez, I had to represent the Southwest Mesa as well. And so it's an unusual time when you come to that kind of situation and then having to run for a very different district the next time around against a mayoral appointee in my own old district. So it made for entertaining times, but probably more work than I was hoping I would have. But that's the nature of this process every 10 years. So there's going to be some districts like that. So we're back on the bill. Councilor Bassan, to close.
Mr. President, I urge your support. I don't know if Councilor Pena has anything to add.
Urge your support.
All right. All those in favor, say yes and raise your hand. Yes. Opposed? And that passes on a 7-2 vote. And there being no further business, the city council meeting is adjourned.